Welcome to the Nurture Network Season 2. I am so excited to have some more amazing conversations in Season 2. And I really, with this season, want to intentionally dig into the real experience of motherhood and what it means and what it's like for many different people, and really focus on the mother's experience. And yes, that has a lot to do with our children and how they're doing and what they're learning and how we feel like we're doing and what we're teaching them and how we're guiding them. But remembering that this is a lifelong relationship that we also deserve to find joy and enjoy and find peace in, even if it's not all the time necessarily, but being connected to our own experience in motherhood. So I'm so excited you're here. I have lots of great episodes coming up, including amazing guests as well as solo episodes. And I have a new series of episodes that will be really short called Goodnight Mom. And they are short, validating, supportive episodes to listen to at the end of the night before you go to sleep to remember all the amazing things you did that day and to start to rewire your brain to see how amazing you're doing, how amazing your kids are doing, and to really see the gifts and also remember that the challenges are normal and part of life and the messiness is okay. And you're going to be okay even through messiness and maybe even how to get a little more comfortable with it. So I'm so excited to share lots of new things with you this season, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Nurture Network podcast, where motherhood meets transformation. I'm Jess Baldenhofer, certified parent coach, educator, and mom on a mission to help you move beyond overwhelm and create a deeper connection with your kids and yourself. Each episode is packed with real tools, relatable stories, and the support you deserve. Let's dive in and take another step toward the peaceful, fulfilling parenting journey you've been searching for. So I've now been a mother for almost 12 years. And looking back, I feel like the person who was about to give birth was a totally different person, but also the same person. Before becoming a mother, I thought motherhood was just about my child, loving him enough, giving him what he needed, meeting his needs, sacrificing, pouring myself into him. Think the giving tree. I was actually, again, thought I was well prepared in many ways. I had 20 years of working as an educator. I had a child development background. I had what I thought was a lot of self-awareness, therapy, reflection, knew my values, knew how to care for myself. Then I became a mother and I very quickly realized that I was abandoning myself in many parts of my life. I was people pleasing. I was doing that with my kid. And when I did those things, I became a less patient, more depleted mother. I was disconnected from myself, and then I was less connected to my child. When I was more self-sacrificial, I was more resentful. And not because I didn't love my child, but because motherhood was asking me to disappear. And it wasn't really asking me to know myself more deeply than ever before. Looking back, there are 6 things I wish I had explored before becoming a mother, and I want to share those things with you today. Welcome to season 2 of the Nurture Network. Last season was an experiment. And this season, I really want to go deeper on the motherhood experience. We spend so much time preparing women for caring for babies. And usually I get a call from moms when their children are ages 2 or 3 because the child is starting to become an individual, a person. And that's when we start feeling unprepared. And think about it, 2 years into a lifelong relationship is actually very quickly. So our society prepares women for birth. There's a lot of fear around what can happen physically in birth and also in infanthood. And, some of that preparation is essential. We need to understand our bodies. We need to understand what's happening in our bodies. We need to understand our choices as women for our bodies, 100%. But we are also sold a bill of goods, very literally. We are sold the idea that if we buy the right stuff, our baby will be okay. And very, very, very rarely are we asked to think about our relationship with ourselves and therefore our relationship with our child, which is about to be a lifelong relationship. We spend as a culture such little time preparing mothers for actually becoming mothers for this lifelong relationship. So here are 6 things that I wish someone had pointed me towards. Before I became a mother, I just had this picture of myself as a mother. Like I imagined myself as I would be with other people's children, just playing and having fun. And I thought I would be super patient and super calm, and I would know all these things about how a kid's brain works, and I would know like the right books to read them and the right music to play them. Then a different version of me showed up when it actually happened. I was overwhelmed. I was burnt out. I let myself get completely burnt out, impatient, anxious, and I felt like I was failing at the end of every day. I was meeting parts of myself that I hadn't met before, and this was not the plan. So I ask you, who do you think you'll be as a mother? If you already are a mother, what did you think about motherhood before you had your child? And what's funny is that a lot of my clients now are deep into motherhood and I'm working with them. And many of them admit to the fact that they hadn't really thought about like what it really meant to be a mother or what kind of mother they wanted to be or how they wanted to design their own motherhood. They were just kind of thrown into it. And then a few years in, they start to feel like they're 10, miles behind the 8 ball. And how do we care for ourselves when a different version of ourselves show up than what we thought was going to show up when we become mothers? So, the other thing that I really wish I had thought about was what I absorbed from my child. Yes, I had actually been in therapy before becoming a mother, and I had started working through some of my own family stuff, childhood stuff, etc. I kind of thought that I did the work. But then I became a parent and childhood was everywhere. And I immediately realized that there were some things I wanted to bring from my childhood, but I hadn't worked out a lot of stuff from my childhood so that I didn't know who I was or how to be tapped into my own emotional experience and my own needs. And B, I hadn't really worked through my own patterns from my own childhood and what I learned from my parents. So when I became a parent, childhood was everywhere phrases, reactions, expectations, triggers. Parenting is sort of where this unconscious material becomes conscious. Your nervous system learned how to parent way before you became a parent. So I wanted to ask myself, what do I want to keep from my childhood? What do I want to interrupt? What are the patterns that I want to break? What feels so normal? I don't see it. And one of the biggest things that I think comes up a lot here for my clients, for myself, is that many of us were raised in authoritarian households. Now, that doesn't mean that our parents were dictators or mean or yelling or worse. But what it can mean is that most of us were motivated from external motivations, right? So even if our parents weren't that scary, we were still afraid. We didn't want to get in trouble. We didn't want consequences. We didn't want to be yelled at. We wanted to people please. We wanted to please our parents. And that's how we wanted to get love, right? And our parents sort of unconsciously got us to comply and got us to learn this way. And many of our generation is now realizing that this is not how we want to parent. We want to have a respectful, peaceful relationship with our child. but we also need cooperation, and we don't know how to teach our child new skills. We don't know what they should or shouldn't know at certain ages, and we don't know how to teach them new skills. And maybe more importantly, we never really learned about our own nervous systems, our own emotional experience, because we had to skip those stages in order to be vigilant with the environment around us and please the adults around us. So this is something that I think we can really start to think about and talk about as we prepare to become mothers. And the third thing that I think is so important to think about before becoming a parent is tied to this, which is conversations with your partner. If you are partnered, some of us are coming into motherhood as single mothers and can do a lot of this work. And we have sort of one parent experience ahead for our child. But if we are partnered, we often talk about logistics. We talk about, who's going to do the morning shift, who's going to take the evening shift. Are we going to breastfeed? Are we going to do bottle? Is dad going to do bedtime? But we didn't really talk about parenting styles, like what was the style you were raised with? What's the style I was raised with? What do I want to keep? What do I want to let go? What are the things that really trigger me? What are my expectations about what parenthood is going to look like for me? What are my biggest fears around parenthood? These are conversations we should be having if we are partnered with our partner. So even I wish we had asked each other more questions around who parented the most in your family. What did a good parent look like in your family? What did a good mother look like? What did a good father look like? What do you want to keep from your childhood and what do you want to change? What are you afraid of repeating? What are you afraid that I will repeat? These conversations are so crucial to this sort of inner work and thoughtfulness around becoming parents. And yes, a lot is going to change once you meet this little person and you're engaged in the actual relationship with this individual that you have either brought into the world or adopted as your child. But this priming of the inner work in these conversations is so important because it does really reduce conflict when you start the practice of having these types of conversations. Okay, so the fourth thing I really wish I had known better or learned better about myself before I became a parent is what my body does under stress. I really, looking back, was very disconnected from the emotional experience in my body and my nervous system. And motherhood really wound up introducing me to myself under chronic stress, sleep deprivation, constant responsibility, overstimulation. I know a lot of moms can relate to that. And I didn't really understand what these things meant or what they did to me. And I didn't know how to take care of myself during these things. So I didn't know what I was even feeling when I was super overstimulated by my child. I didn't know when my nervous system was buzzing and I just needed to regulate and calm myself. I wish I had better understood what activates me, what overwhelms me, what helps me recover. What are the specific things that support me in recovering my nervous system, in regulating my nervous system? Your nervous system is a gigantic part of your relationship with your child. When you are teaching your child to regulate their emotions, if you are dysregulated all the time because no one ever taught you, this is a massive part of your relationship. So this isn't, generic self-care like, oh yeah, when I become a mom, I'm going to make sure I go get a mani-pedi once a week. No, this is how do I know what I'm feeling? How can I name my feelings? How do I take a breath, pause, support my body in somatic ways in order to regulate my nervous system? This is parenting preparation. This is the type of thing that most of us do not think about before we have a child. So the fifth thing has a lot to do with my village. And I want to start by saying that I think being raised as a people pleaser, which many women are, I truly, truly thought that the consequences of me doing everything by myself didn't matter. Like, I didn't have any real awareness of those consequences. I thought like, well, if I can do it all, I just should. And then I didn't think about, well, what happens when you're burnt out, when you're completely depleted? So I definitely had like the little mommy baby group that I met up with, etc. But even with them, I wanted to show up looking like I had it all together and I had it all figured out. And I did not think enough about what my actual support system would be. Who were the people that I could really count on when I was struggling? And how to embed a support system and a village into my life, how to find the right people, the people who would be non judgmental, the people who would be alongside me when I was doing this. And the reality is very different, especially when you have a newborn. It is very, very, very isolating. And, now in 2026, when women are having babies, there's a lot of technological ways to feel connected, but there is nothing like having that mom friend or two with a child of the same age who can just come over and sit there with you and take turns changing diapers and take turns, going to the bathroom while you watch each other's kids and really sitting there and talking about the hard parts and making sure you get out and get that walk with that friend and having some of us have family members we can lean on and say, please, I need you to come over and clean this house. I have to sit on the couch with the baby. I need a nap, whatever it is. But like, we don't get in this practice of asking for help. We don't get in this practice of offering help to each other and being the community. Motherhood can so easily become so isolating in this day and age. We actually have to intentionally make sure that doesn't happen for ourselves and for the people around us. So, who do I call when I'm overwhelmed? Who can come over when I need like a last minute help? How do I practice before I even have a child? How do I practice just saying, I need you to help me with this. I need you to help me with that. And can I help you with this? And can I help you with that? When I haven't slept, who can come over and just like be in the apartment, watch the baby so I can take a nap? We need to stop this practice where mothers feel like they have to show up back in the world as their old selves and look like they have everything pulled together and look super skinny and look super cute with their new babies. And we need the real people around us who are the village. The village does not magically appear. In fact, a lot of your people will go away when you have a baby because they don't have kids and they don't get it. So we have to build this and we have to be intentional. So the last thing I want to say about what I wish I thought more about before I became a parent was the identity shift. And this is a tricky one because this one is definitely something that, you don't know who you're going to be. You don't know what it's going to feel like to be a parent. You don't know if you're going to have postpartum depression, anxiety. You don't know if you're going to have a really difficult birth. You don't know if the baby's going to have a hard time. You don't know any of these things and how they're going to impact you. However, I think there are lots of things that we can talk about before we become a parent around what actually is the goal of who we are as people. And how can we start to strip away some of the performing so that we're really conscious when we become parents about if we let this go or let that go, does that really affect like who I am as a person? For example, let's say you're a runner for 10 years before you have a kid. And then you say to yourself, in order to still hold on to some aspect of myself and also be a great mother, I need to keep running. Running will always be important to me. Great. That is so important to know and have it written down on your list. This is part of me. This is important to me. I need to keep this. And then there's other things that we know, you know what? If I can't get my nails done every week, that's okay. I can let that go. Or if my roots grow out. Does that really matter? Or my roots need to be done because that's how I feel human. Whatever. You get to design this for yourself, but this is all part of intentionally designing what matters to you. And motherhood is not just gaining a child, it's sort of accepting an invitation into this new relationship. And every relationship is a mirror, right? So, yes, it is our jobs to care for these children, to guide these children, to teach these children, but we also need to learn about ourselves through this mirror of our child. What about their personality? What about their needs affects us? And how does it affect who we become? And how does this new relationship, this new role affect who we become? And as I said before, some of this we can't know ahead of time, but some of it we can walk mindfully into. We can be intentional about designing some of this. And again, it goes back to really understanding yourself and understanding what are the things that you need to that keep you connected to yourself, while at the same time, where are the spaces that you can open up and be in flow? What are the practices you can do to start shedding some of the control that you maybe have in your life before you become a parent? So when you keep everything sort of super clean in your home and everything's really tidy and everything's really perfect, like, how can you remind yourself that, like, things are gonna get a little messy and it's okay? Like, how do I let some things go and how do I tap into the flow of this relationship? So, I really love this conversation because of a couple reasons. I really love talking to women as they are becoming mothers because I think that we can intentionally design our own motherhood in more ways than we think. But it is not about knowing exactly how you're going to be or exactly what being a mother is going to be like. But what it really is priming yourself for change, priming yourself for dysregulation, priming yourself for needing help, priming yourself for asking yourself the right questions when things get hard. These types of processes and this type of mindfulness can take us so far as we enter into this new chapter of becoming a mother. And one of the ways that I really want to support mothers in this very short phase of preparing for motherhood is this new free group that I have called Becoming Mother Collective. It's a free Facebook group, link in the show notes. If you are between 3 and 9 months pregnant and you would like to do some of this inner work, this mindful work around designing your own version of motherhood, please come join me in this group. And through this, I also offer one on one coaching. If you are becoming a mother and you really want to do some inner work, I will take you through very specific steps to create an actual blueprint for what motherhood is going to look like for you and how you are going to support yourself through motherhood, even before you know who this little person is. So, I really want you to remember that I thought motherhood would be about learning my child, and I did not realize how much it would be learning myself. And I hope I can support you in doing some of that good work as you prepare for becoming a mother. Thank you for joining me today. And all the info is in the show notes. And please send me a note, respond to this podcast episode, and let me know your thoughts. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Nurture Network. If this episode resonated with you, subscribe so you won't miss the next one. Share it with a fellow mom who might need it too. Until next time, remember that nurturing yourself is the first step in nurturing your family.